This is a short video lecture series about waste management. In this short video lecture, we're going to focus on electronics recycling, and if time permits, we'll get into the amount of waste that ends up in our oceans. So today's consumer electronic products are characterized by rapidly evolving technology and a relatively short product life. The average lifespan of a computer is currently about 3 to 4 years. And advances in technology for all electronic equipment, particularly cell phones, soon renders them obsolete within a 1-year time frame. Due to the relatively low price of the new equipment, items that break or become obsolete are often discarded into the waste rather than being repaired or upgraded. Given the sheer volume of electronics and the hazardous materials that they may contain, consumers and generators are encouraged to seek environmentally safe options such as reusing these things, recycling when their electronics reach the end of its useful time as opposed to just direct disposal. So why are electronics considered to be potentially harmful? The equipment contains metals that, if not properly managed or contained, can become hazardous waste. Cadmium, the largest source of cadmium in municipal waste, is rechargeable nickel-cadmium batteries, NiCd batteries. Lead is found in old monitors and televisions that have cathode ray tubes, or CRTs, that contain leaded glass. CRTs are the largest source of lead in municipal waste. Mercury is contained in some electronic equipment, and also there are some recoverable quantities of mercury. Electronics may also contain other materials like hexavalent chromium, brominated fire retardants, lithium, and phosphorus coatings that, if improperly disposed, can pose a threat to human health and the environment. So e-waste right now constitutes 2% of America's municipal waste or trash in landfills, but it equals 70% of overall toxic waste that are being generated here in the United States. About 20 to 50 million metric tons of e-waste are disposed of worldwide each year, and it is considered to be the fastest growing municipal waste stream in America, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. This graphic depicts the amount of millions of tons of e-waste that were generated by the different states listed on the left-hand side of the screen. So the United States definitely generates the highest amount of e-waste in the world at 9.4 million metric tons, followed by China and then Japan. On a per capita basis, the U.S. has the highest electronic waste generated on a per person basis. So electronic waste disposal is an issue around the world, and we as the United States are leading in generating the most of this waste, so we also should take forth the initiative to figure out ways to tackle the problems associated with electronic waste. This graphic depicts the amount of e-waste generated in the dark blue color. The turquoise color represents the amount of e-waste that was trashed and put into landfills, and the teal color represents the amount of e-waste that was recycled. And then the last row depicts the percentage of e-waste recycled. So looking at the trends over time, in 2000 through 2009 or 2010, there is a definitive increasing trend in the amount of e-waste that was occurring and being generated. We kind of leveled off in 2010 and stayed very similar in 2011 and 2012 and started to see a little bit of a decline in 2013. Now, as far as the amount of waste that was thrown away in landfills, that also increased over time, but has since decreased as a result of more efforts to recycle electronics. And you can see by the teal color that since 2000 there's been a gradual increase in the bar graph depicting that we are recycling more and more tons of electronics. The percent of electronic waste recycled in 2000 was 10%, and in 2013 was 40%. So we're definitely seeing an increased effort to recycle the electronics. Now, in terms of who gets the trash, well, e-waste is shipped all across the United States. However, about 70% of it ends up in China. Goya, located in China, is considered to be the world's dumping ground for electronic waste. Goya also holds the record for being the largest e-waste site in the world. Its population is about 150,000 people, and it was first fully documented in 2001 by the Basel Action Network in their documentary titled Exporting Harm. And that was focused on the e-waste, where a lot of electronic waste was being shipped to these developing countries and being dumped within their borders, and really the countries are overwhelmed with trying to handle and deal with the electronic waste. About 5,500 businesses, many of which are family businesses, dismantle the old electronics, extract precious metals, and in doing so they use very primitive methods which causes health problems for citizens and environmental problems for the surrounding area. You can see here there's a little boy just sitting in the midst of telephone cords and wires. And this is very typical in Goya, China, that you just walk around and there's electronic debris all over the community. So people in the town of Goya dismantle this electronic junk, and the streets are lined with electronics. In one workshop alone, the men slice open the sacks of plastic chips and pour them into large vats of fluid and stir with shovels using their bare hands. They claim to sell the plastic to a local plastic company named Foxconn. In 2013, Goya actually suffered an environmental calamity. Toxic pollution covered the air from all the e-waste disposed of there. The workshops alone were contaminating the workers, not to mention what seeped out into the land and the toxins that entered the atmosphere. Studies showed from Shantou University Medical College that the children in Goya tested had higher levels of lead in their blood. Fields outside the town were filled with piles of electronics, with animals casually grazing amongst them. Most of the workers in Goya are migrants from some kind of destitute area of China and have little to no education. Many of them have either been downplayed the potential for the risks, or they're just unaware of the risks associated with handling electronic waste. I strongly encourage you to watch the brief video about Goya, China, e-waste capital of the world, which is in your D2L folder for this week in the content section. Now, this map depicts known and suspected routes of e-waste dumping around the world. Currently, there's no system for tracking legal or illegal trade of shipments of electronic waste, and therefore there's no quantitative data on the volumes or the true destinations. Some electronic waste is being shipped as working equipment, only to end up as waste upon the arrival because it really doesn't work. If we click on this link, it will open up a site that depicts where America's e-waste ends up. So here we have the United States, and we are tracking different discarded electronics. And most of it's going to Goya, China. So basically what happened is the MIT organization put 200 geolocating tracking devices inside old computers and TVs and printers and dropped them off at nationwide donation centers. And then they tracked where that waste material went to. Now, there are 25 states that have passed laws establishing statewide electronic waste recycling programs. Pennsylvania is one of them. The Pennsylvania Covered Device Act was an act that was passed in Pennsylvania that established a recycling program for certain covered devices. This includes TVs, desktop and laptop computers, computer monitors, tablets, and computer peripherals. Computer peripherals include keyboards, printers, or other devices that are sold for the external use of a computer. So in Pennsylvania, electronics can no longer be disposed of with municipal waste. You can't put it out to the curb for the trash collector. They will not accept this waste for landfills or other solid waste disposal sites. So This is because the solid waste landfills really aren't built to handle electronic waste that can leach out toxic materials. Instead, they're only allowed to accept non-hazardous materials. So one of the things with this law, the PA Covered Device Recycling Act, is it required that manufacturers of any kind of covered device offered for sale in Pennsylvania have to register their covered device brands with the Department of Environmental Protection, and the annual registration fee is $5,000. So if Dell Computers wants to sell computers in Pennsylvania, they have to register with the PADEP and provide a $5,000 fee each year in order to be able to sell those computers within the state of Pennsylvania. Those who don't register get fined up to $10,000 for the first violation and $25,000 for subsequent violations. They must be involved with establishing and conducting ongoing recycling programs of the covered devices at no cost to the consumer, and they must report annual covered device collection and recycling data to the DEP. So the burden's really been put on the manufacturer now. If you want to sell Dell or Apple products in Pennsylvania, you have to register with the DEP each year and pay a $5,000 fee. In addition, you are required to help to recycle the electronics in a safe manner at no cost to the consumer. Now, as far as the retailers are concerned, retailers are only allowed to sell devices that are registered with the DEP. So if Dell doesn't register with DEP, Best Buy cannot sell Dell products. Same with Apple or Sony or HP or Asus. The retailers also must notify customers of how and where they can recycle their devices, and they are not required to conduct electronic recycling programs, but if they do, it has to be for free. So basically this law requires that electronic recycling is done for free here in Pennsylvania. We can drop our stuff off and not have to pay a fee. Now, as far as recycling facilities, they must be certified, and they have to have an R2 eStewards or an international accredited certification. In addition, the facilities must obtain a DEP general permit and be approved for operation and meet the guidelines for safe handling procedures regarding any kind of hazardous substance that may be in the electronics. And then as far as consumers and how the PA Covered Device Recycling Act impacts consumers, it's as simple as we must take our devices to electronic recycling facilities. So switching gears from e-waste, just please recall that I've already shown you a website, earth911.com, that you can go to find out ways to recycle hazardous waste, household hazardous waste, electronics, and I'd like to step into the topic of tires and what we're doing with our tires right now. According to the Pennsylvania DEP, there's about 12.5 million waste tires generated and recycled each year in Pennsylvania. Think about the number of cars that you see on the road and trucks and how many tires are associated with that. In the last 15 years, about 28.1 million tires have been cleaned up. Pennsylvania was known as having a significant number of tire dumps throughout the state, and it has been spending the past 20 years trying to clean those up. In light of this, however, there's about 1.5 million waste tires still in large abandoned commercial stockpiles scattered throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Also, Pennsylvania is considered to be one of the states that has a strong scrap management program, yet the tires keep evading this program and ending up in quarries, just being dumped off to the roadside, ending up in streams, as well as old abandoned stockpiles of those. This graphic shows the amount of waste tires that have been recycled over time since 1998. We've definitely increased our recycling efforts of waste tires. Although we have many tire recycling programs in place, there are still too many tires that are getting disposed of improperly. From a global perspective, several countries are working hard at being the top tire recycling countries in the world. Currently, United Kingdom is the #1 recycler of tires in the world. And Scandinavian countries such as Sweden, Norway, Denmark have all claimed 100% diversion of tires from the landfill. But not all of them are recycled, but they're still trying to move forward with increasing their recycling of tires in those countries as well.